Yeah, I also want to say, as we're getting through the sentimental stuff, I do appreciate the kind words that I've gotten from this whole podcast community and all that stuff about some of the things that my family's been going through this week. Again, we really appreciate all the kind words. So once again, we carry on, we continue, life does continue, but we definitely do. As I said, my wife and I do appreciate everything that everyone said. So back to business at hand, we got to episode 300. That was never really a goal. We never put a number on it, but we are going to be talking about some of the sentimental stuff about the podcast and going over the history of it, and maybe not the nuance. You can go back and listen to listener questions about that, but just some of our favorite moments and topics and things like that. So that's our last question, because of course our special edition of La Ronda today basically comes from submissions that you, the listeners, usually I just read your questions, but we actually had people send in audio that I'm going to be playing today. And Francesc and I are going to be hearing those and answering those questions from and looking at those who've submitted audio. It's some of our most devout listeners throughout and I say years, it's not just months or weeks or whatever, it's through the years. So the first one, though, before I get to anybody else, is my question for you, Francesc. So it's been a while. It's been actually an entire season that has been tough to watch at times. And with last year, you and I, before you left, we were talking about the transition, if you will. So what are your impressions of the season so far, leading up to the sacking of Koeman, that you and I have actually, not even you, but I haven't spoken about because I had to cancel the second show last week. So, what are your impressions of this season leading all the way up to Koeman being let go and Sergi Pajwan coming in?
Yeah, for sure. I was speaking a lot about the transition season last year, and people thought, oh my God, this guy sounds like a broken record, which I probably did. And I think that the transition season sort of was between, I want to say, February and July last year, and certainly all of this season. I think that Barca is, I don't want to be too pessimistic today, but you have to call a spade a spade. I think Barca is back in 2002, 2001, 2003, the Van Gaal years, which I've always referred to as the dark years. And I think that that is precisely where we are again. We don't have a superstar like Ronaldinho, but then again, in 2003 and 4, we didn't really have Ronaldinho as such until he came from PSG all those years ago. And we don't have that figure that can take us out of the hole that we're currently in, to be honest. So we are nowhere near the fight for La Liga. I think that dreaming of a title this season is that dreaming, science fiction. And I think that we just need to be ready for what's coming. For what is happening is not great. I mean, we played Alaves and Rayo Vallecano over the last 8 days, and we got 1 point. So that is just embarrassing. It's not even funny. I don't know why I'm laughing. So that's the situation we have. We are in this situation based on the several ongoing and unforgivable mistakes over the last, I want to say, 5 years of preparation. When you're signing your Netos and your Pjanices and your, incredibly expensive Coutinho, Dembele, Griezmanns, and they don't work out, then the La Caja, the economy of the team, just empties, and what's on the pitch is terrible. Partner up the fact that obviously Xavi, Iniesta, and ultimately Messi are no longer in the team. People like Dani Alves, Abidal, Puyol, no longer in the team. You've got players such as Piqué, Busquets, and Jordi Alba who have declined. They're still doing sort of okay, most of the last three that I mentioned, but they're not at their peak, nowhere near. When you've got the next generation of La Masia, powerful sort of go-getters that should have been led by Carlos Alañá, Cucurella, and Sergi Roberto, and none of those are, only Sergi Roberto is in the team, and he's now being whistled by the Camp Nou faithful. You've got a gap. So behind Sergio Roberto's generation, that's the Alañá Cucurella generation, is just not there because of mismanagement, basically, not being promoted from La Masia, not being trusted to play at first team level. So there is a missing generation there. The generation after that didn't really work out too well, because ultimately that had to do with the and you follow it a lot more closely than myself, of La Masia. They not necessarily sticking to the system through La Masia, having players that had to play because of their contract and their promises, and not necessarily just going towards the players that really deserved it. So you've got two missing generations. But fortunately, over the last 6-7 months, and I think this is going to be Koeman's legacy, as I said last week, he's been promoting players from within, and he hasn't really looked at passports, and he's just gone for the best players. And you've got a crop of 17, 18, 19, and even 20-year-olds that are not just coming through, but actually becoming starters, like Nico and Gavi should be by now. But then you've got Balde, you've got obviously Ansu Fati, who hopefully recovers from injury soon, or even though that he's recovered, he's picking little niggles, which is normal, always happens. So I really do think that those youngsters are el clavo ardiendo, you just have to hold on to that and basically hope for the best. Matches against basically anybody this year really truly matter. I think we're playing Kiev in a couple of days, but ultimately if we lose, we're out of the Champions League, so be it. I don't think we're going to win it. I think that the Champions League money is important. So I would say that Barca's trophy this season, and I know this is going to sound incredibly pessimistic, but Barca's aim this season has to be being in the top four and getting your Nikos and your Gavis enough playing time so that then in 2-3 years' time, they can be the leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Kool-Aids are kind of unified on some of the major points here, where when, as you said, top four, and then making sure that it's not even the round of 16. I know that's the goal, but even getting through the group stage, because even making the next round, that money is more than you make from dropping to the Europa League and winning the entire Europa League competition. So I continue to say that point. And then that means that Kool-Aids, again, are very unified on that front. Their expectation about the top four, and it did take a lot of bad results. And I think it's in bad faith, those cataclysmic doomsday people that say that, the club is in whatever it is, it's complete shambles, or when a negative result surprises you. But in the same way, again, unfortunately, I had to make up games. So last night I watched both Rayo and Alaves back to back. So my brain's a little cloudy.
You're a brave man, Dan.
I know.
You're a brave person. I can't believe that you're awake and you've got a smile on your face. I can't believe that.
I can't say I extracted too much out of the Nico Gonzalez played well. I didn't extract too much out of those matches. And then I also, thinking about Kiev tomorrow, there's a lot of players coming back. But as I said, for that one, I don't even want to tactically try to break something down or try to, fancy myself into thinking something that is going to be complicated that's going on, or some major changes. It's going to be a lot of what we've seen. And Koeman being sacked.
Can I jump in on that, Dan?
Please.
Because, I haven't been in the podcast for so long. I'm just going to interrupt you the whole time, if that's okay.
Please do.
So Sergi Barjuan was saying after the game against Alaves at home, we watched a 1-1. Obviously, the guy has only had like 2 days of actually being in charge. And all he said is that he tried to get the players back in the right frame of mind. So he's just trying to sort of build the emotional roller coaster that they've been in and trying to sort of mend it. And his only instruction was simplistically made the pitch a lot wider, like Stoichkov used to do, and himself, Chapi Ferrer and Sergi Barjuan used to do back in the day. Make it as wide as you can. Basically, don't have 27 crosses like Ronald Koeman used to do in the end. And play a little bit, try and get your superiorities. In other words, try and find the free man. Try and go for those classical Barca triangles. Try and associate and be a little bit more together at the back, but at the same time, go forward when you can. And pretty much that any player that's ever played at Barca, or any fan that's been watching Barca through the years, would be able to tell you that that's the way that Barca should play. So at least Sergi Barjuan was brave enough. I mean, brave. It's against Alaves in the Camp Nou, but at least he was sticking to what the Barca traditional system is, and hopefully the next manager can cement and get better.
Yeah, I mean, I think Koeman, for all the frustrations I had with him, with his, I just thought he was tactically outmatched so many times in his tenure.
Yeah.
Again, we knew when he signed up, again, I say it many times, that the first thing the YouTube video I came out about his career was that he was, as a manager, a roller coaster of a manager. He had never really entered that top tier. And just because he had we'll say Barca's a top tier job, doesn't mean he was going to improve or reach that level. And he never did. And so Koeman was supposed to be there as a legend, as this kind of this leader among men, right? His discipline, those are the things that kind of attracted him to the job, even that he was going to get all these youngsters in order and they were going to listen to him and it was going to work out. And once you could tell that they stopped kind of playing for him, once he had kind of lost the ear of not even the older players, but everybody, you could tell the players just it wasn't working. Something wasn't working behind the scenes. And if a manager who cannot tactically outclass everyone else loses the squad, then he's lost the locker room completely. And that's why it was time to go, because Barcelona now are in that moment where you are hitting the panic button, that results have to happen. And Koeman wasn't going to be getting those results. So whether it's Sergi Barjuan, and we have a question coming up about him in a minute, but yeah, if it's Sergi Barjuan or whoever it was going to be, it just had to be someone different.
I think that I agree with what you said. It's impossible to disagree with that. But I think that Koeman was the perfect man for the job at the time. He was someone that had the respect of el entorno, the environment back in Barcelona. As you said, he wasn't there to, be Pep Guardiola number 2. All he needed to do was put some things in order, promote the youngsters, and basically, I cannot even say it in Spanish, team down all the criticism that was coming, and basically take it on the chin. He was a little bit of a shield throughout the Bartomeu roller coaster and obviously eventual crash. I think having someone of his caliber and stature within the Barca history and within the Barca sort of environment was a great thing to have.
So you think for better or worse? Do you think for better or worse that if it wasn't Koeman, almost any other manager actually would have been out even earlier, and it would have made the club even more unstable, right? If it wasn't the big personality and the legend that was Koeman.
Yes, I think that to be able to be an umbrella to such criticism and institutional shambles, it would have had to be someone like Koeman, maybe Guardiola, maybe even Xavi himself. But absolutely, the club needed someone to gel it together. And Koeman was not, and he's not, he never has been the most charismatic, but his knowledge of the club, I think he's let's just say it, his stature as a legend and idol for the very demanding older socios culés within the Camp Nou, and the many friends he's got in the Barca press, especially Catalan. Obviously, press these days goes beyond Catalonia, of course, but having so many allies like Lluís Canut and different sectors of RAC1, which is a radio station, and obviously Catalunya Radio as well, and by extension TV3, which is the television of Catalonia. Having so many allies for so many years has really helped him keep the job for so long. And to be honest, I think Bartomeu used him as an umbrella, and Joan Laporta, to an extent, has done the same. I think that the fact that Koeman was the manager at El Clásico, despite the horrible results before it, was just so that Laporta himself didn't get splattered with all the, I'm not going to say it, but all the negativity, let's just call it negativity, that was surely going to, well, not surely, but was most possibly going to come Barca's way if they lost a Clásico, which obviously we did.